welcome to the Telegraph's Christmas cocktails and canapés session from a very festive kitchen in South London. And my name's Xanthe Clay. I'm a chef and a food writer and a columnist for the Telegraph. And in this hour-long masterclass, we'll be learning how you can entertain friends and loved ones from your own home. We'll be looking at what flavours complement each other, Christmas cooking tips, how to make the perfect cocktail, as we cook 4 delicious canapés paired with a variety of festive drinks mixed up by masterful spirits and cocktail experts Joel Harrison and Neil Ridley. Joel and Neil are award-winning drinks authors and have recently released their new book, 60-Second Cocktails, which is providing recipes of amazing cocktails that you can make in just 1 minute. And please let us know if you're cooking and mixing along with us today. You can tag us on social media at Telegraph_live. So, Joel and Neil, what are you mixing up for me today?
Well, we have a veritable smorgasbord of festive delights here. The first one we're going to be making is a little take on a spritz, actually, to really get the party started. And we're going to be using some delicious ruby port, obviously the Christmas choice.
Couldn't be more Christmassy, get it?
Very much so, yeah. A little bit of sparkling wine, some Prosecco. And we're going to be mixing this up with some a dried garnish of some orange there as well. It's like a sort of spritz, a sort of Aperol style thing. So light, refreshing, very fruity, perfect way to get your party started.
Feels really British, doesn't it? Using port, which has got so many British associations, hasn't it?
That's the great thing, is you might think of a spritz as a summertime drink in the warmth, but actually switch up the ingredients slightly, using port, for example, and you can come up with something that's really warming and much more festive in that respect.
Can't wait to try it.
All right, we're going to be making a wonderful, refreshing spritz here, and we're going to be using some ruby port first. Now, if you like port, actually, which I do, I love port Christmas, you can use ruby, which gives you a lovely fresh fruitiness, or tawny, which is slightly more nutty. And with every spritz, you're going to make this very simply in the glass. It's a dead easy drink to make. So we're going to use 3 parts of our ruby port.
So how much is 3 parts?
3 parts, basically 3 measures, effectively. So,
Can I ask a stupid question?
Cool.
No stupid questions.
No stupid questions.
How much is a measure?
25 ml. So in our book, 60-Second Cocktails, we decided to do everything in parts because actually a lot of the time, if you don't happen to have a measure, you can use an egg cup or anything like that, which gives you a kind of standard amount, really, isn't
perfect.
it? So we're going to add a little dash of freshly squeezed lemon juice to that as well, just to give it a little bit of bite. Just a tiny dash of sparkling water.
Does it matter? That's the spritz, isn't it? That little bit of water.
Yeah, and then we'll add some ice into our glass. There we go. Oops, little one there. And of course, to get the party started, really,
everybody loves
some fizz.
There's no better sound, is there, than the sound of
isn't it? Well, apparently, so if you're in a restaurant, you're supposed to turn the bottle. Of course, just releasing the gas.
Turn the bottle,
pop,
not the cork. Is always there.
I mean, really, that's the best sound of all time, though,
isn't it?
So, yeah.
Great. Merry Christmas, everybody.
So there's going to be 3 parts again of Prosecco. It's going to build that. I mean, you can top it up, really. So
I like a little bit more Prosecco.
Yeah, I think so.
Just because, well, why not? It's Christmas. That's what I would say.
Exactly. I mean, Prosecco, very good value for money as well, I think, actually, especially in times where we're sort of watching the budgets a little bit. It is quite nice, and there's some really very high quality Proseccos at the moment. Little top up, shall we? Why not?
Yeah, fantastic.
You get this beautiful colour to it as well.
Isn't it? It looks like mulled wine.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mulled wine with bubbles. What could be better?
Absolutely. We're going to use just a simple dried garnish of orange. You can actually use a wedge of fresh orange.
How do you make those?
Quite easy, actually. What you can do, I mean, you slice your oranges very thinly, put them onto a baking sheet. They take a little bit of time in the oven, really, just at a very low temperature, probably a few hours, just to sort of to dehydrate them. But they last for ages, which is great.
You can do them on top of a wood burner as well. If you've got a wood burner going, put a baking tray down, slice them up, and lay them on top of a wood burner.
Oh, I like that.
So yeah, and you get the smell in the room of the orange as well. It's very Christmassy and really works. If you put some cloves over the top as well, the room smells amazing. And what's better than a great Christmas smelling room? Fantastic. So you're making a second
I'm going to make you one as well.
Oh, thank you very much. You're too kind, too kind. This is the sort of drink as well that because it's so Christmassy, because you're using the port, you're using the sparkle from the Prosecco and the water, you've got a little bit of lemon in there as well, it just goes down so well in a festive setting, doesn't it?
I think this would be the perfect drink to welcome people.
I think so,
at
yeah.
the drinks party.
Exactly. Yep.
First drink, big tray of these.
And you're all right with that mulled wine kind of concept, is that it has some of those festive flavours in there, and people are going to recognise that they're here to celebrate, the end of the working year, hopefully, and put their feet up and enjoy some time with friends and family.
Absolutely.
It's just the greatest sound, isn't it? It is. It really is. I'm in the mood now.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, there we go. Just give it a little mix. Again, it's really simple to make in the glass, and just as you said, a brilliant one to start off your festivities with.
Thank you very much.
So let me know what you think.
Cheers.
Merry
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Very good.
Tasty?
Oh, very festive.
That is delicious.
Yeah, the port has the tanginess of the port and the fizziness of the Prosecco comes through, but you also get that little zest of lemon there. It's lovely,
You
isn't
do,
it?
that little
Super
bit of
refreshing.
lemon makes all the difference, isn't it? Yeah.
I think with port as well, you've got so many varieties. You can tailor this to your own personal taste. And actually, we'd like to get a bottle of port at Christmas. I think it's often a gift, and a lot of people don't really know what to do with it. So I think actually it's quite a good, refreshing way to make a cocktail with it.
Absolutely. Well,
It is.
we need some
Perfect.
food with it, don't we, really?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Well, I was thinking of those kind of classic British flavours, the port, and thinking that really meant, what that meant to me is Stilton cheese.
Delicious. Yeah.
So we're going to have some real classic British appetisers, cheese straws.
Oh, wonderful. Great.
With Stilton. And we're going to flavour them with pink peppercorns, which I'm sure you've come across in your drinking. They're not related to the black and green and white peppercorn. They're a different thing. And they've got a kind of, I would say, orange zesty flavour.
It is very distinct, isn't it? It's almost fragrant compared to sort of black
and this
pepper.
beautiful kind of buff pinky colour, which is just gorgeous. So we're going to flavour them with those just for a little bit of zest.
Really stand out beautifully against a Stilton.
So we're going to start with 100 grams of flour. And really what we're making is this kind of flaky pastry, like a quick flaky pastry, but with loads of cheese in, like shed loads of cheese. It's got 100 grams of flour, and I've just got some fridge cold butter, which I'm just going to grate in, and that's just 60 grams of butter.
That grating, is there sort of any particular sort of way that gives a different lightness to the recipe, or?
Well, it's just a way of getting it into small pieces, really.
Oh, right.
So you're just going to mix it through, and I don't know if you can see, but I've really just mixed it. I've hardly rubbed it in a bit at all, just to like a little bit like that, because I don't really want it to be, you want the lumps of butter, that's what's going to make it light and airy.
And is it just plain flour?
And it's just plain flour. And then I've got a pinch of chili flakes here. I've used Aleppo pepper, which I think is a really lovely, not too spicy
Just the
chili.
right level, isn't it?
Yeah. But you could use any old chili you like. You could even just add a shake of chili sauce, it's just there to give it a little bit of bite. And then I've got 80 grams of Stilton. Actually, I'm just going to need that grater again.
Yes,
You
of
can pass
course.
it to
There
me.
you go.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Nice one, chef.
So I'm just going to grate it in, and I'm just going to grate it all in, rind and all. I mean, obviously, if you think the rind's looking a bit naff, then cut it off. It sometimes does, if it's been sitting around all Christmas, it kind of. But generally, it's completely fine, and there's really good flavour in that rind as well. So I definitely wouldn't waste it.
And it's such a lovely salty flavour to Stilton, isn't there?
And it's quite strong. And I would say, we're all, Stilton does hang around a bit, and you do sometimes have some left over after Christmas, and this is a great canapé for New Year as well. But do be aware that the Stilton might get a bit kind of wetter.
Yeah,
and
okay.
you might have to add a tad more flour just to get the texture right.
Smells fantastic.
it does,
So I'm
doesn't
just
it?
mixing that through.
Smell of Christmas.
It really is,
And then I'm just going to add about half a tablespoonful of pink peppercorns, which I'm just going to chop lightly here.
Okay.
Now you could use a pestle and mortar, that would be fine as well, but you don't have to have one, and not everyone has one, because unlike peppercorns, like black peppercorns, these are actually quite soft.
They're more berry-like, aren't they? Than they are sort of like cloves.
They are. They're just little bit. That's what they are. Little berries. There we go. So just mix those through. That's all. And then just to bring that all together, I'm just going to use a little bit of egg yolk. So I've just got an egg here. So I've just separated the egg, and we've got some egg white left.
Very
Don't know if
useful
you can use
for,
that.
well, you can. Actually.
Do you know what?
One of the cocktails we're doing needs some egg white to
So
give
do you
it a
know
lovely
what?
foamy note.
Let's put
Keep
that to
for
one
later.
side
Yeah.
and we'll use that in a cocktail later. Fantastic.
Brilliant. So I'm just going to add that egg yolk to this, and then I'm just going to use my knife. Actually, I probably wouldn't use such a sharp knife as this usually, but anyway, that's fine. And just mix it round, just to bring it all together. And you'll notice I haven't added any salt to this, and I would add salt to any recipe I'm making, really, but the cheese is quite salty,
Yes.
so you don't really need any. So you're just blending it all together, really, but you want it to still be a bit nubbly and lumpy like that, because like I say, that's what's going to make them light and airy. Because it's funny old thing, cheese straws, isn't it? Because they're not straws. I mean,
No, it's the strips, really, aren't they? Yes.
but I think what they really are is little light, airy strips that are quite
I think the airy,
crunchy.
the better, really, aren't they? And when they're flaking off and they're going, that's the whole joy of having one, isn't it?
The cheesier, the better for me. That's what I want.
To shape this dough, because it is a bit sticky, I'm just going to do it on the same piece of baking paper that I'm going to use in the oven. So we're just going to put all of that crumbly dough on there, and then just bring it together like this into a mound. Okay, and it's really not looking that much like pastry, is it? But you'll be surprised. And now I want to roll this out 1 centimetre thick, but I don't know about you, I find it quite hard to get that accurate. So I have my magic stick.
Well, that's good, yeah.
And they're just pieces from the builder's yard, which I've just cut down to be a little bit narrower, but they're 1 centimetre, half centimetre, because I don't want to roll it 1 centimetre deep, I want to half a centimetre deep, sorry. So these are half a centimetre deep, and I'm just going to put those on either side, and then I'm just going to fold the paper over the top because this is sticky and I don't want to add any extra flour. And I'm just going to press it down. And what I'm looking to make is an oblong about 30 centimetres long and about 13 centimetres wide.
Amazing.
More or less, but let's not get too fussy about it.
It's a great life hack, that, I think,
Isn't
actually.
it?
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
It's like the Isambard Kingdom Brunel of cooking. This is amazing.
Funnily enough, I live in Bristol as well, so it's spooky.
Tell you what, there's something in the water in Bristol.
Amazing.
Okay,
Amazing.
so there we go. Now it's just got a little bit wide, so
That's
I'm
a
just gonna
great trick.
trim that
It really is,
off,
isn't it? Yeah.
and then put that up there.
And no expensive equipment needed. It's all very...
Oh, it's all very
No doubt there'll be some
DIY.
special chefy ones that someone will bring out.
exactly.
Some astronomically expensive
There we
ones.
go.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to use the rolling pin just to get it really properly nice and flat. There we go.
Great.
It's great, that.
There we go.
Can you make this and freeze it? Or does that not work?
Yes, absolutely. This freezes like a dream.
Oh,
and in
great.
fact, what I'm about to say is it's really best off chilled for a bit.
Oh, okay.
Before you cut it.
Yeah.
So what I've got here, so I'm just going to use my fingers. Now you could just trim these ends off, and just to make it neat with a knife. But why would you waste any of this mixture? I mean, it's got, all that lovely Stilton in and things. So I prefer just to squidge it up with my fingers. And you can use a knife to take a bit off one end and pop it on the other end so that you've got quite nice straight ends.
Yeah, very cool.
There we go. And just squish it all together, take away your sticks, and then you just roll it in its paper, which is also going to be the paper you bake it in. Just wrap it up and then pop that in the fridge. I'm just going to open the door and slide that one in. And spookily, I've got one I prepared earlier.
As if by magic.
As if by magic. Here it is.
Look,
And you can see it's all
look at
ready
that.
on its paper,
Phenomenal.
ready for baking.
it's such a vivid colour as well with the peppercorns, isn't it?
And also what I'm not doing is using a load of cling film, which is more plastic, which would just go in the bin afterwards. I'm just using all the same paper. And you know what? I would even wipe this paper down after baking and reuse it.
great.
Completely fine.
And if you're using the egg white for a cocktail later, there's pretty much no waste on this, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm just going to cut these about 1 centimetre deep. And remember, these were half a centimetre, so two together makes 1 centimetre. And you just cut these. And you should, because you're doing 1 centimetre, you made it about 30 centimetres long, you should get about 30 of these cheese straws.
That's good.
out of this.
So a good party's worth. I think,
A good party's
yeah.
worth. And to be honest, they're so delicious. And they keep, they'll keep for, 3 or 4 days in a sealed box. And if you want, you can just pop them back in the oven to refresh them afterwards, if you like, but you don't have to. And there we go.
I say a good party's worth, probably about 5 minutes in my house.
Well, in my house, any leftovers, sit down and eat them reading the Telegraph. That would be my thing.
Those just go onto a tray, and you can bake them for 10 minutes at 180 centigrade. That's about 160 fan, about gas mark 4. And then after 10 minutes, take them out. And if you want to, you can use a little bit of egg white, brush them down and sprinkle a little bit more pink peppercorn over. But completely up to you. Depends how spicy you like them. And then when they're done, they look like this.
Wow,
Now,
yes.
how dark you like them is up to you. I like them on the dark side, slightly getting caramelized, really crispy. But you can also bake them just a couple of minutes less, so they're just a bit paler. And when they're done, you would let them cool just a few minutes because they are a bit fragile, and then lift them with a fish slice onto a cooling rack. And when they're done, you can just pop them into a pot like this.
Nice. Yeah.
And they are ready to pass around. And I am hoping that they are going to be delicious with your amazing drink.
They look sensational.
Look at that.
There we go.
Wow.
Gentlemen, may I offer you a cheese straw?
well.
Pink peppercorns.
It would be rude not to. Wouldn't it? Thank you
There
very
go.
much.
Look at these. They look fan.
Oh, and they've got a lovely crack to them, haven't
Look
they?
at that. Watch. Oh, yes.
And can you see the layers in them? They've got little light layers, which is down to the down to not rubbing in that butter and cheese too much.
That's delicious.
Excellent.
Cheers.
And I must go and wash my hands now.
Oh, the peppercorns.
Love a pink peppercorn. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Also,
really zesty.
the saltiness, as we said, the saltiness of the Stilton. Well, what have we got here? Cheese and pork, basically, which is absolutely perfect. What a great
could
pairing.
be better? So, time for another cocktail, I think.
Absolutely. So this time we're going to do a fantastic sort of Christmassy-based cinnamon and apple and whiskey concoction. It's from 60 Second Cocktails, and it's called the Big Apple. So it's really, really simple. I'm going to use a 2-part cocktail shaker. You get 3-part cocktail shakers as well, but I'm preferring just to use this one for this particular drink. Neil, can I charge you with that to add some ice in there, please? In the piece that looks a bit like a pint glass, I'm going to start to build the drink. Thank you very much. I'm going to use 2 measures of bourbon. So I'm going to make 2 of these. I'm going to put 4 measures of bourbon in.
What's the difference between bourbon and whiskey?
Bourbon, this is bourbon that's made in Kentucky. So it's basically got a high rye content, and a bit like rye bread, that brings a spiciness and unctuousness to the drink. Any whiskey can be made anywhere in the world. Scotch is made in Scotland, Irish whiskey in Ireland, bourbon anywhere in America, but Kentucky bourbon is what
It's
you
a
want
lovely
to look for.
sweetness you get from bourbon as well, especially in a drink like this.
So I'm going to put 4 measures in here because I'm making 2 drinks. So that's 100 ml of the bourbon. And then I'm going to do the same with apple juice. So I'm going to put in 4 measures of the apple juice into here. So that's 2 measures per drink. And the next thing I'm going to do is squeeze some fresh lime juice. Now, any good drink will have some citrus notes in it to bring through a zestiness. I'm using a Mexican elbow, which is one of these classic things. You'll have seen them in kitchens. My measure. And then you take the lime wedge and you stick it upside down and you give it a good squeeze in. And about 25 ml per half of lime, depending on the size of the lime. So here I'm only using 1 measure or 2 measures, 50 ml into this drink because I'm making 2 drinks. So that goes into there.
Very juicy limes there.
Very juicy lime. We also want a bit of sweetness, and sugar syrup is big in drinks. So you can add sugar straight into your cocktail, but using sugar syrup, which you can make at home quite easily, is just boiling down equal parts water and sugar. I'm just going to put a dash of that in to bring us some sweetness into that.
One of the nice things, actually, you can use different sugars to give you different flavours. So you can use a muscovado or something dark. You can add other things, vanilla in there as well, just to give it an additional sort of flavour. It's really very simple to make, isn't it?
Now, this has got some texture to it and a foamy head. So the way we get that is by putting in some egg white. So I'm going to crack an egg into it. 1 large egg white for 2 drinks should work. So just move that around, stick that in. Always wash your hands before you make a drink, of course. That we're going to save for later on. Makes a great omelette in the morning. And then we're going to put the drink into the ice. Put the 2 parts together. I'm going to give it a really good shake.
Sound of a party there.
Absolutely. This is what you want. Nice cheers. Woo! As this goes on.
Now, those cocktail shakers look really cool.
Yeah.
But when I go to the shops and buy a cocktail shaker, they look a bit different. They don't have the glass bit. They've got a sort of...
They don't. There's a 3-part cocktail shaker, and we'll use that in another drink to show you the difference between the two. Neil, can you take the ice out of my glass? So I've iced the glasses here, and the reason I've done that is to keep this chilled as possible.
Gives you a great little tip actually as well. Makes you elevate your cocktail game by having a lovely frosted glass like this.
Absolutely. If you stick them down there, what we're going to do is, you can fine strain this using a tea strainer. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put this straight into the glass and give that a little bit of a shake.
I love how you're using 2 different glasses. That's very in at the moment, isn't it?
Well, it's whatever you've got, really. It's all
up.
about, you don't feel like you have to live in a show home all the time. And I think it's whatever's going to make the drink drinkable and easy. And you can see there, this beautiful foamy head, which has come from the use of the egg. But if you're a vegan or a vegetarian and you're not going to use egg, you can use aquafaba. Aquafaba is the juice from a tin of chickpeas, and that does the same job. So that there is the cocktail. The final flourish is to put on a sprinkle of cinnamon, and you can do this in 2 ways. You can just into your little tea strainer and put some on the top like that, and it looks just as good. Or, Neil, do you want to do this one?
You can elevate your cocktail game even further.
Out the way,
now, I might need you as well here, actually. Or you will hold this.
I'll hold this.
So, little tip here, which often works quite nicely. If you cover half of your cocktail, put it down a bit tighter on
there
that.
you go.
Lovely. What you can do is just a little bit on there. You can have a bit of fun at home. You can make some templates as well, perhaps a reindeer or a Santa Claus or anything, holly.
Look at that.
And that gives you
Isn't that beautiful?
a lovely line.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what we have now is something that's got a lovely texture of whiskey in there. It's got a lovely, beautiful robustness from it. It's got the lime juice for that zestiness, but it's also got that egg white for the texture, and it's got the cinnamon sparkle on top. So I'll tell you what, we'll give you that one. You can have a little try. Neil, I'll give you this one.
Thank you.
You can have a little try of that one. Seeing as you did the garnish. Enjoy. I hope you like it. Very good. Oh, I'm so jealous. And hopefully you'll get all that beautiful apple, whiskey, and the cinnamon zest. The cinnamon notes coming through your nose.
Festive, that isn't it?
Yeah.
So delicious.
Apple and cinnamon. I mean, you get that wonderful fruitiness, then that sort of slightly dry but spices. I mean, what a great drink really for Christmas Eve, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Yeah.
And that whiskey really brings out the apple flavour.
Absolutely. It works so well together, those two things.
Absolutely amazing.
As with any good garnish, when you bring it up to your nose, you get the cinnamon smell, the cinnamon aroma coming first, which really sets the scene for the drink.
Wow, and not too sweet.
Not too sweet, which is nice. Great.
Beautiful drink.
What are we going to serve with this apple delight then?
Well, whiskey and, hunting for deer and for venison just makes me, they all kind of go together.
Yep.
So I thought to go with this, we'd have a little venison canapé.
Oh, great.
But I know it's not always that easy to get hold of venison. It works really well with beef as well. So either way, I'm just going to put that
Stick
to one
that down there.
side.
I'll have a little clean up.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I have a beautiful piece of venison here, which I've just kept in the fridge. I've just kept it on a plate, not covered, which is fine as long as you've got a nice lipped plate and no juices can drip down. But it just keeps it a bit drier, which is what you want for your next trick, my next trick, which is I'm just going to sear this on all sides, because what I want is a kind of venison carpaccio, but just with a nice sear on the outside.
So no oil at all in there.
So no oil at all in there. And that's just going to cook on all sides.
It's my favourite meat, venison.
It's fantastic
good,
meat, venison, and we should be eating more of it because it's they are wild all over the country, and their populations are going up and up and up.
It's very lean as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and they eat all the undergrowth. They eat all the plants, and so actually anyone who's got land is having to cull some of their deer because they're just too successful. Most of them aren't native to this country anyway. They're an introduced species. So what I'm just going to do is cook that on all sides, and it's a lovely lean meat, really low in fat. Just going to.
You can already smell the beautiful kind of gamey notes of it cooking.
Exactly.
And for me, that's again, Christmas time. I grew up in the Cotswolds. My mum used to make game pie at Christmas, and you could
delicious.
smell it cooking away on the Aga. It was fantastic.
But the thing about venison as well is that it's not kind of strong gamey. I mean, a lot of people have been put off by getting venison that's kind of, or getting game that's like really strong, bit pongy.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of venison really isn't at all. It's just
Such a
like a
beautiful
really
colour as well,
delicious,
isn't it?
lean beef, and really good. So I'm just searing that on all sides, and I'm just going to cook it till it's got a nice brown colour. It's not quite there yet, so we're just keeping turning it.
And with venison, you can, in the same way with beef, you can eat it rare, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah, completely fine to eat rare, but it is better to sear it on the outside before you do that, because any bugs that there are aren't inside the meat, they're on the surface. So by doing this, you're making it really safe.
Mm-hmm.
So this is better than just, slicing a little bit of meat. So once you've got that to a nice colour, I'm just going to put that to cool, and once it's cooled, I'm going to wrap it tightly in a bag or foil or paper or a bit of cling film, and just put that in the fridge to chill down so it gets really cold, and then maybe even into the freezer for a couple of hours, because I want it nice and firm so that I can slice it really thinly. So there we go.
That's
Brilliant.
a good tip, that, because I've tried cutting thin slices before, and you never quite get it right, do you?
It's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. So I'm just going to pop that over there to cool down. And luckily, spookily, I've got one I prepared earlier.
You're very well prepared, Xanthe.
Yeah.
You really are.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So here we go.
Great.
I'm going to unwrap that. There we go.
Lovely stuff.
And I'm going to see if it's the right temper. Yeah, look at
Oh,
that.
what a great, yeah.
Just cut really thin slices. Now, what I love about this recipe is that right now we're all kind of tightening our belts a bit, aren't we? We're being a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
And this is a luxury cut of meat because you're using the fillet, the loin of the venison, the fillet of the beef. But you've got this one little steak, and that is going to make you 20, 30, even more canapés. So you're really getting value.
So a little goes a long way.
Out of a special piece of meat.
And it's got such great flavour, I think, venison, so that you don't need a lot of it, which is the nice thing.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Look at the colour on the
That's
inside.
I mean, what a
amazing.
treat that is.
Oh, my goodness me.
So we're just going to leave those to one side while we get on with the rest of the dish. So to go with this, I've got some sage because it's such a lovely seasonal herb. You know, you might have this growing in your garden. If you don't have it in your growing in your garden, I bet you know someone who has. I have no shame. I go and knock on my neighbours' doors and say, "Excuse me."
I bet you've been caught scrumping sage.
Yes.
I mean, I always ask. But you just want to cut off about 20 leaves. And
can I nick one to have a little smell? Is that all right?
Absolutely do.
I'm going to pull one off here.
I'm just going to turn the heat up
Oh, such a great aroma, isn't
on
it, sage?
this.
Yeah. We actually have a sage martini in our book 60 Second Cocktails.
We do, yeah.
Which actually, again, you've got that lovely aromatic note that comes through. Works very well with gin.
This
It
would
works
be
very well
delicious
with
with
other
that.
spirits as well.
Yeah.
A lot white spirits particularly.
That is, yeah. Gosh, and just grows fresh in the garden, which is the nice thing about it. You don't even have to think about buying it if you're growing it already or in a little pot in the kitchen. God, such a great aroma.
Yeah. So anyway, so you're just pulling off these leaves like this, and then you want 20 of them because I'm making 20 this time. But like I say, you probably get more than that out of this piece of meat. And if not, it's going to make you the best sandwich you've ever had in your life.
I like that. That sort of beats the roast turkey sandwich, doesn't it?
Well, so do you love one of those?
That
as well?
is true, yeah.
But
They're great,
stuffing in your sandwich or not? Yes or no?
Yes, for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Although
Not for you.
when you're sort of
Oh,
4
I
or
think
5
so.
days in and you've still got some leftover turkey and you have had turkey sandwiches for 4 or 5 days, it somewhat loses its shine, doesn't it? Really?
But you know, you can freeze turkey. You can freeze cooked turkey, and that's a really
That's
good
a
thing
good
to
tip.
do.
Really good
Because
tip.
it means that, you know, come the middle of January, you might fancy
yes,
a
nice.
turkey curry.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's a great way of using it, isn't it? Yeah.
So I'm just frying these in it's about a centimetre of oil I've got in here, and I'm just looking for them to go like a little bit golden well, kind of just beginning to go golden, just beginning to think about going golden. So they go bright green, and then and that means that they're going to crisp up really nicely.
I guess you need a very hot oil for that, don't you?
You do. So you need a nice hot oil here.
And I love the sound of them going in, and the sort of the way they're almost jumping with joy getting in there.
And the other bonus of this is you've got a lovely little bit of sage flavoured oil, which you can use for another dish.
Oh, that's a great
So I
idea.
would never throw that oil away. That should not be wasted.
Perfect.
Right. So I think those are just about done. And so they've just gone this sort of dark green, sort of slightly translucent colour. And that's what you're looking for. And that means it's gone crisp.
Goodness me,
But
look at
you've
those.
kept its colour.
Yeah.
And it's lovely, isn't it?
They've gone from being that kind of earthy British green to it's almost kind of like British racing green on
That's
there.
right.
It's
And
incredible.
it's also changed the flavour. It's made the flavour a bit more mellow because you know how
It's quite dry and bitter, isn't it, sage?
it can be a bit much. It can be a bit of a bully boy, sage. You don't want to, you have to be quite restrained with it. But this will really mellow it down.
I love the idea of saving that oil as well, the sage oil for a later date. It's a brilliant idea.
Never throw away oil. And the same with drippings from the pan. I mean,
Yeah.
My mum always had a dripping jar and it was just the best
That was
thing.
one of the truly great memories I have. Bring back the dripping jar. I would go to my grandma's house for the weekend, and she'd say, "What would you like for supper?" And it'd be bread and dripping sandwiches with, of course, the brown, the gravy, the sort of darker bit, and then with additional salt on top. I mean, probably not the most healthy thing for someone, but I remember that well, and it was a truly.
You had bread and dripping sandwiches. I had game pie on the arse.
No,
It was slightly different.
Boys, eh?
Reminiscing. I'm sorry.
So, to go with this, we're going to have a little bit of like Marmite yeast extracty, other yeast extracts are available, mayonnaise. And to do this, I'm actually using a bit of this truffled mayonnaise.
Smells amazing.
Truffled Marmite. But you could also use truffled mayonnaise, but it's quite expensive.
Yes.
But truffled mayonnaise, which is the sort of thing that turns up in hampers and things, isn't it? And you think, what am I going to do with this? Well, this would be ideal for that. And then I've got about a spoonful.
Amazing.
And I made this the other day for my son who works in restaurants. And he said, "Mum, you have discovered a new classic steak sauce." So I am proud. I'm very, very proud.
So we should expect that to come past on any supermarket nearby next year then. That's Xanthe's legendary steak sauce.
Exactly.
You heard it here first.
So this is just mayonnaise and Marmite?
So this is just mayonnaise and Marmite mixed together.
Yeah.
But I have used the truffled mayonnaise because I'm posh like that.
It smells incredible as well. It really
Now,
does.
to make up these canapés, you can do it just with a little teaspoon, and that's fine. But when you're doing a lot of canapés, they really take time, you know? And I find the best thing to do is to use a piping bag. But these days, we're all trying to cut down on plastic, as I've mentioned before, and those disposable plastic piping bags don't seem like such a great idea. So I just use an old bag that, I don't know, something came in, which I have washed out very carefully and then dried by popping it over a wine bottle. And that's the best way to keep it open so it dries dripping down. And that is going to make my piping bag.
Oh, I see. Very clever. Yeah.
And I'm just going to snip
just
off the
trim
end.
the end off, yeah.
And sure, I'm not going to be doing any fancy sugar work like that. But for ordinary piping, that is going to be completely fine.
Fantastic.
So let's move those out of the way, and we're going to put these canapés together. Let's make these bad boys.
So excited
The
about this.
smell of this is absolutely incredible. It really, really
Doesn't
is.
translate as well on camera.
It's sadly not. No,
I know. Bring on smell-o-vision, I say.
exactly.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
Now, these
I've
are
got
interesting
here-
crackers.
So what I've got here are these charcoal crackers, but you could use any crackers. You could use those little mini oat cakes, which would carry on the slight Scottish theme as well, and that would be great as well. But I just think these are quite cool.
They are really cool, aren't they?
And I'm just going to cut them in half. Now, you have to allow a few extra because you're always going to get the odd one which breaks, like that one. But you just cut them in half. Just do a little, oopsie, there we go, that one will be fine.
Yeah.
Just to make little fingers. Because we talked about this, didn't we? One bite or two bites for a canapé.
When does a canapé become a snack?
Yeah.
Good question. I'm a one-bite person myself for a
I
canapé.
think one bite is better because, you know, people have nice frocks on. They
Yep.
do not want to drop what.
Very true.
Also, you're going to have a
stuff on-
cocktail in one hand anyway, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you've got a conversation going. So you don't want to be in the middle of chewing away whilst you're trying to explain.
No one ever
few
shakes
there.
hands, do they? It's like you've got a
You bump
cocktail.
elbows now, anyway.
Of
That's
course,
the new
yeah,
thing.
that's the
So,
way.
yeah.
Right, so here we go. We got my mustard mayo. There, let's hope this.
Would you use some scissors?
Oh, I do actually. Can you pass me the scissors? Oh, you've got scissors there.
Look at that.
Look at that. That's great. You can come and be in my kitchen any time. Just going to snip off the corner, snip off a bit more actually.
That's such a clever
Very
use
really
of a
smart,
bag, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm very into, if it's single-use plastic, give it a second use, and then, you've given it a second use. What can I say? You've halved the amount of plastic that you use.
I mean, look at that. It's
It's a bit
elegant.
marbled.
It
I
is
like
marbled.
it marbled as well. Yeah.
But this is so much quicker than fiddling around with 2 teaspoons, trying to scrape bits of stuff on.
The colour as well is fantastic against the charcoal black of the crackers. Works really well.
So now I'm going to make these canapés. So I'm going to pop a sage leaf on there and then take a little piece of this venison and roll it up
That looks great.
slightly on an angle. Tuck in the end.
That looks great.
Looks
A
phenomenal.
little roll of venison on top.
Very
And
classy,
there
isn't
you
it?
go.
Look at that.
That's your little venison roses.
That is going to impress. Absolutely impress. Very, very good indeed.
So excited to try that. With
The
a drink
aroma
as
is
well.
awesome, hasn't it? Yeah. Brilliant.
And now I've got a nice plate to put them on as well. There we go.
Just the difference in colour, isn't it? Yeah.
Go.
Brilliant.
Just
Absolutely
need a little
incredible.
sip of these with them. Here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Fantastic.
Cheers.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Actually, I love the venison
Yeah.
with the whiskey, with the apple, with the...
But just from the canapé alone, the lovely rare nature of the meat with the crispiness of the sage leaf and the crack of the cracker is absolutely
That's
fantastic.
a taste sensation.
Yeah.
The
Marmite
Marmite
with the
mayonnaise. I mean,
mayonnaise.
I can see why that's now 2023's steak sauce.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Wow, amazing.
Well, cheers, and what an amazing drink.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yum. I'm getting a bit thirsty here.
Excellent stuff. Well, we have a little bit of a twist in our book where all the 3 chapters come with a non-alcoholic cocktail.
That is such a great idea because so many people I know are holding back. Or just, some days you just don't want to drink.
Exactly, and you still want something tasty. You might be driving, you might just have a non-alcoholic day, which is a very healthy and sensible thing to do.
And I love elderflower cordial, but, there's only
Can
so
only
many
go so
times.
far.
Right,
Exactly.
Actually, one of the great things is, as a body of a lot of non-alcoholic or low alcoholic cocktails, you can use tea because you get the lovely tannic note, the dryness, you get some body in there as well. And that's what we've decided to use for this one.
So
Fantastic.
there is a drink in our book called Brightside, which uses Earl Grey tea, but because it's Christmas, we thought we'd spice it up a bit with a chai tea. So we've got a chai tea that we're going to put into a cocktail, kick off with some ice in our shaker.
And chai is like an Indian spice tea
Exactly,
with nutmeg
yeah.
and ginger
Absolutely.
and
A
cloves
cardamom and, yeah.
all sorts of good things.
So
in
that's
it.
been pre-brewed and chilled down, and it's perfectly delicious on its own, but we're going to mix it up a bit. So again, I'm going to make two measures in here per drink. So I'm going to make 2 drinks, one for you each. So that's 50 ml per drink, 100 ml in total. Stick that to one side. We've then got some apple juice again, and this time I'm going to put in equal measure to the amount of tea that we've used. So that's 50 ml for each drink.
So this would be a really good counterpoint to our last cocktail
Correct.
for the people
Absolutely.
who aren't drinking.
I think if you're thinking of having a non-alcoholic option, then this against the big apple, you've got the apple in there, you've got that sort of dryness and the spice as well. They work equally well together.
Yeah. In the last drink, we used lime juice. In this one, we're using lemon juice. And actually, I've pre-squeezed that. And we're only going to use a drizzle, like quarter to half a measure, just per drink. So that's a couple of those.
Do you ever
just
use
to
Juice out of a bottle?
Not so. Of apple juice, yes, out of a bottle, absolutely fine. Orange juice out of a bottle
citrus
can be
juice,
fine.
Something that you get the acidity. I think it's always best if you can to try and use a fresh citrus fruit.
Lastly, I'm going to put a dash of Angostura bitters in. Now, this is the bottle that tends to last everybody forever in their cupboards. We have a joke saying that things that will outlive a nuclear war are Angostura bitters, cockroaches, and Keith Richards. So I think this is what we're going to put in here. Absolutely delicious. If you ever want to try bitters, just put some on the back of your hand, give it a little lick, and you can see the flavour that comes through. So it's got that spiced orange note to it. So we're going to put in 2 or 3 dashes of that. It's like the seasoning, the salt and pepper of the drinks world. Neil, could you pass the glasses over? I'm going to give this a shake. I'm using a slightly different cocktail shaker for this one. This is the 3-part cocktail shaker with the middle. It's got a built-in strainer, so it's nice and easy.
Yeah, the sound of the party. People just hire Joel just to come round and shake cocktails.
There you go.
If I popped an egg white in there to match it up to the big apple, could I do that?
Yes,
to make
you
a glossy top?
And that will give you a bit more of a head on it, yes.
Yeah. So this one, I'm going to pour that in. You will get a little bit of a foamy head because we've shaken it, but you won't get as much of a foamy head as if you're using the aquafaba or the egg white. And now this drink, not only does it look gorgeous, it's going to look even better because Neil is going to show you how to make a fantastic garnish to go on top of this.
Well, again, I think with that idea of the festive season, having friends over, it's quite nice to sort of try and elevate your cocktails a little bit further. So garnishes are a really brilliant way to do that. Now, this one's very simple. It's just a simple twist of, as you can see, a simple twist of lemon peel. What you can do, you can actually have quite a lot of fun with these. You can do different designs. You can have them so they sit on the side. With this one, we're just going to do a simple spiral. And what we'll do, you can use a vegetable peeler. I prefer to use quite a sharp knife.
And be very careful if you're using a sharp knife, as you all know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a vegetable.
This goes against all my food trainers.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a vegetable peeler fan with this because you can just whip one off. Your fingers tend to be safe.
It all depends on the freshness of the lemon. So if you have a particularly fresh lemon, it's actually, I think, much easier to use a knife. So what we're doing, we're just taking off about that much, probably about sort of, I guess, half of the circumference of a lemon peel. What we're going to do, we're going to take off the white now, the pith on the other side, just again very gently. What that does, that can introduce a little bit of bitterness into the drink. So we try and remove as much of that as we can without sort of damaging it. And we're going to trim that up to give it a nice straight edge. Like that. Make it a bit more jazzy. We'll make it like a lightning bolt. Okay. And here, what we'll do, now these are interesting. So if you have a bar spoon, you will have often seen this. You'll see this sort of slightly spiral-like thing. What these are great for is just simply putting your peel around the shaft of the spoon, and you slide it off the end, and there you go. You've got a nice looking.
That is so cool.
Spiral.
I love it.
And what we can do, you can actually express the zest over the top a little bit.
Stuck in there as well, so you can get the oils out.
We'll pop that into there like that.
Pop that one in there like that.
And that's, elevating your cocktail game.
There you go.
Lovely.
Would you guys like to try the drink?
I would love to.
There you go. And hopefully what you're going to get here is that beautiful spiced chai coming through from the tea. You'll get a little bit of citrus through from the lemon, which has also been expressed
a little
over
bit
the
of
top.
that zestiness on top.
And then you get the Angostura bitters, which is a slightly orangey note, but again, spiced again. So if you're driving, this is a perfect thing, all with that wrapped up in that beautiful apple note. So,
Yes, that's got real depth, hasn't it?
Yeah, tea is a really great base for a non-alc cocktail. And there are so many, of course. You could go smoky with Lapsang Souchong. You can do Earl Grey, anything with spices in, or you know what, even good old British builder's tea. To be honest, I've used that plenty of times in a cocktail. So
very good. There you go.
That is amazing, and it's the inspiration for my canapé.
Excellent,
fantastic.
So I'm going to make an Indian-style canapé. It's inspired by the street food that I ate in Mumbai, which is called chaat, and it just means just delicious, delicious, delicious snacks. So to make this, I'm going to take about 10 centimetres of cucumber. I've used a sort of fairly narrow cucumber, better than one of the huge ones, some onion, and some little plum tomatoes. And first of all, I'm going to chop up this onion. So I'm going to take off the top layer. And when I take off the layer of the onion, for this recipe in particular, I would also take off the outer layer because that's a bit tough. So I have actually gone in slightly with that. But it's not wasted because that will go in the stock pot.
And I
never waste
it's a
anything.
red onion, is that essential or is it?
Oh yes, for the colour.
Okay.
And canapés are partly about the look.
Absolutely.
You want them to look beautiful as well.
A little bit more sweetness with a red onion as well, isn't it?
I think there is a little bit, yeah. So you'll notice that, unlike Neil, I'm not chopping towards myself.
Just looking at the skills there, thinking.
So you just, to chop your onion, you just slice across as thinly as you can. You really want quite little bits. And then turn it round and same again. And it'll just fall into nice little bits.
Now that's a tip I've learned today. I'm going to be...
To not go all the way to the end because it holds,
it's holding
doesn't it?
together at the end, exactly. And then that last bit is going to go in the stock pot as well. Or you could just chop it up and use it as a base for a soup or something like that. So you've just got finely chopped onion. And what I'm going to do is put those in a little bowl and squeeze over lime juice and a pinch of salt and just leave it for, a couple of hours. And it turns into this glorious pink onion that's sort of a little bit pickled in the lime juice.
Yeah, so it's almost cooking it with that lime juice.
It is,
a bit like ceviche.
Yeah.
So it's got a lovely tang and it kind of takes a kind of bitter raw onion taste away. Exactly. So it is a bit like you're cooking it. Then moving on, I'm going to take my cucumber, cut it in half like this. And I'm just going to take out the seeds. Now, I love the seeds from cucumber. They've got really delicious flavour. But for this recipe, you don't really want them in because they're too wet. They're going to make your canapé a bit soggy. So I'm just scraping them out. Now, if I wasn't being a bit posh and on camera, I would eat these now. But I'm being a bit posh and on camera, so I'm not going to eat them.
Do you know what I would do? I'd stick them in with some vodka and infuse it into the vodka, strain it off. You've got yourself a cucumber vodka, great in a martini.
Delicious.
See,
Absolutely
it's all about
delicious.
no waste, making sure your money goes as far as
Exactly.
as
And also that's flavour. Why would you throw flavour in the bin?
Yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake. So I'm just cutting these down just like, I don't know, a couple of mils thick. And it's quite easy to do because you've taken out the seeds.
That's a clever idea.
Like that. And you've got the dear little batons. And now gather them all together and cut across again. Again, little.
Look at that, it's all looking very neat.
Nice skills and a half there.
My kitchen never looks this neat
No.
when I'm chopping up. Absolutely.
There we go. So right down to the end, just get those last bits, which are always a bit annoying and you can't hold on to them properly. There we go. And that cucumber is going to go in with the onion, the pickled onion.
It smells so fresh already.
Really
doesn't it? That's
does.
the thing about it. It's great.
And then I'm just going to have about 6 of these little tomatoes. You could use a big tomato too. I can't count, that's 7. There we go. You could use a big tomato too and just scrape out the seeds. Because a big tomato would be a bit wet and sort of, but these ones you can just use whole.
Do you know, I've been growing tomatoes this summer actually, only just as the plant finished.
I know,
actually.
yeah.
It went really
with such a warm end to the year, didn't we?
And it was so
I am
good.
so in awe of anyone who can grow anything. I have tried and I really worked hard on my tomato plant this year and I got 2 tomatoes.
Oh.
2 very small tomatoes.
Well, green tomatoes are great.
Well,
You can
that's
make
the thing I found.
fried
is
green tomatoes.
about the
and green
position
tomato
that you
chutney.
have them in the garden. I learnt to move them around. They can never seemingly have too much water. That's the other thing. You've got to really keep them watered.
Yeah.
And as Joel said then, if you've got any green ones left, I've found that you can use those in chutneys. There's a couple of great ideas for recipes there, actually, with vodka or anything like that.
Or slice them, dip them in polenta or cornmeal and fry them.
Absolutely delicious.
Yum, yum, yum.
Knife skills here. Is it important to have with tomatoes a very sharp knife?
Yeah, I think it's important to have a sharp knife at all times.
Yeah.
Full stop. Yeah.
And a solid chopping
Yeah,
board.
if you want
Solid chopping board.
if you want.
Fearless skills.
Okay, I'm just gonna. When I pickled this not this onion, I left the lime in just because there's a little bit of
Zest
flavour
in
in
there,
that
yeah.
zest.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
pop that in. So I'm just mixing those all together. And you can see it's already looking
Beautiful
fairly
colour.
pretty.
Colourful
Look
is
at those
amazing.
colours.
Isn't it? The colours are great.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to add in some pomegranate in season at this time of year.
Okay.
Obviously not grown in the UK, but they're in season in the Mediterranean. Lovely fruit. Now you can get them whole like this and pick out the seeds yourself. So you just score it through round the edge like this. There we go. And then just get your fingers in there and just ease it apart. And there you have your seeds inside. Now, these ones are beautiful. You've got some really lovely seeds. But sometimes you open them up and they're kind of white and they're not that beautiful. So I have to admit, when I've got a party coming up and I know I need them to look beautiful, it's not just about the flavour with pomegranates, is it? Let's face it.
No.
I do sometimes buy them ready seeded like that. Which works really well.
They're frustrating to get out and frustrating to eat on their own, aren't they? I found. But
they have such a unique flavour.
I love that kind of zing of acidity they give, and they do look beautiful. So I'm just going to mix a few spoonfuls in there. Great. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with a few shortcuts, especially for canapés, because for goodness sake.
Well, you want to be hosting. You don't want to be working too hard, do you?
Exactly.
So
that's actually one of the things that we were thinking with the cocktail book, was the idea that you want to be spending more time socialising and enjoying your guests than actually in the kitchen making drinks. Because actually your
number one job is to make sure everyone's having a good time. That's the number one job, and anything else, you know.
Absolutely. What have you got next?
So to go in this, I've got some chaat masala, which are these masala spices. Now this one, you could leave it out, or you could just put a bit of chili in or something like that. But you will have to go to an Indian grocer's probably to get these. Or I think some of the bigger supermarkets might have them in there, you know, like speciality selection. But it's got this lovely sort of slightly kind of stinky smell, which sort of slightly sulphurous, which comes from this black salt, which they use, which is a sort of slightly sulphurous salt. And to me, that is the absolute intrinsic flavour of chaat. And
there's almost an earthiness to it.
Very earthy.
That's right.
Which is really,
But like I say, it's not crucial. You could leave it out and just use a little bit of chili, maybe a little bit of ground clove as well, just a tiny pinch. You don't want a lot.
The little
can
goes
you
a long
smell
way
that
with that,
sulphur
doesn't it?
coming off it, which
Really.
is part of the
mixing in with the other flavours of the cucumber and the tomato and the onion,
it's really savoury. It brings a real umami, and it's great. Once you've got it, it's fantastic for vegan dishes because, like, if you put it with tofu or something, it makes them really almost eggy because of that, you know, that sulphur flavour.
Goodness me, it's quite sulphurous, isn't it?
Yeah. So there we go. So that's all mixed up and ready, and then I'm going to put these now. Classically, in India, something like this would come on probably on a papati, which is like a little deep fried circular disc, really. If you can go to an Indian grocer's and find them, brilliant, use those. But for this, because it's simpler and because this is just inspired by, I'm not trying to be authentic here, I've just used these little puffed potato discs that you can buy in supermarkets. And I think they work really well because another thing you could also put in this is some chopped diced boiled potato. But because there's potato on these discs, I'm not going to put any in. But also because, you know, sometimes people like to be more fresh, I think it's also nice to put some on some leaves as well.
Oh, I see.
So I've got this beautiful chicory. But you could use little leaves of little gem or anything like that.
A ready-made plate, isn't it?
That's it. The chicory leaves are so good as a little boat for serving little bits of food on, which is fantastic.
We go. So
look great.
They just look really
fantastic.
Really pretty, aren't they?
I suppose that's one of the key things with any canapé is you do immediately eat with your eyes with these, don't you? You need to be drawn towards them.
You do.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And then to go on, I've got my piping bag out again, but yet again it's reusing a bag that I've washed out and dried, and I'm just going to chop off the end. And this has got some thick yoghurt in. Now, you could use Greek-style yoghurt, that would be okay, but what I really like is the true Greek yoghurt, which is very thick. Or you can now get super thick yoghurt made in the UK. Brilliant. And this is a fantastic, fantastic product. It's much higher protein than a Greek-style yoghurt, and it's much thicker and lusher and just completely fantastic.
So not all yoghurt is made equal in that respect?
Not at all.
And low in sugar, I think, as well. These really heavy, thick ones, aren't they, as well?
I'm pretty sure. I'd need to check that, but yes. Yeah. So I'm just going to squish it together. Again, you could absolutely do this with a teaspoon, but can you see just how quick and easy it is?
Absolutely.
Just when you do it like this, you know, you could do loads.
You get the kids involved in this as well.
Yeah,
you know, doing this sort of stuff.
Having said that, my children would still find a way to get it at the walls and all down there.
And then with that, another classic of Indian chaat is tamarind chutney, which is made with tamarind sauce. And it is, thank you.
Get a little bit easy.
Thank you. And it's made with tamarind and dates. And there's some lovely recipes online if you want to make your own. You can buy ready-made, like this one, which is fantastic. You can even buy it in the supermarkets. Or if you're struggling, just a jar of Branston's is fine, but put it through the blender because you want it to be smooth, not chunky, but just give it a blend because Branston's has got tamarind in.
Oh, does it?
Maybe chuck a little bit of HP sauce in as well, or brown sauce.
Just for that added spice and texture,
exactly.
Added bite.
Oh, in the
So
middle.
just going to squish a little bit. This one's a little bit runny actually, but there we go.
Cool.
Now these things classically aren't that tidy to eat, so I've tried to make them a little bit tidier.
That's why I didn't wear my white suit today.
There we go. And now I'm going to add a little spoonful, of our mixture here.
Oh, that's really fresh, isn't it? Look at that.
There we go.
I can smell it from here, and it's fantastic. Just the mixture of all the flavours together and the aromas.
It's such a sensual thing, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
The aromas there and the sort of look of them. And
beats a cheese football. That's all I'm going to say.
But I love a cheese football.
Or one of the hedgehogs with the pineapples and cheeses. I still make those every now and again, just for nostalgia value.
Classic. Yeah. Brilliant. So just put these on. Again, don't worry too much about it being tidy because they're not meant to be tidy. They're meant to be sort of rather joyful and sort of scattered all over the place. And if you have any left of your mixture, then it's just delicious as a little salad.
Yeah, of course. Be nice.
And then on top of the ones that are on lettuce leaves, I'm just going to add a little bit of Bombay mix. Again, in India, you'd have something called sev, which you'd scatter over the top, and then you can absolutely pick that up from Indian grocers as well, and it's delicious and well worth looking out for. But a little bit of Bombay mix does nicely as well. Just scatter
and adds
that
a bit
around.
Of a crunch, I guess.
Add some crunch, which you wouldn't otherwise have, which you've got in the sort of potato disc.
It's a real sort of taste I reminisce with Bombay mix. I remember having handfuls of it as a child and being overwhelmed with the flavours that you got, but then going in for more as well.
It's very Moorish, isn't it?
It is very Moorish, yeah.
Then I'm just going to top that with a little bit of coriander, just because that's another classic flavour. Just scatter it around, and again, you want this to look. This is street food. It's not meant to look absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And
it looks fantastic.
Looks
fantastic to me. Yeah. It's,
there we go.
The gift that keeps on giving. This isn't
it?
It? It's just
So you'll notice I put the coriander in some ice water just while I was waiting, just because how you don't want sad coriander. You want nice, fresh looking coriander.
Wow, look at these.
There we go.
Right.
Don't they look amazing?
One more bit on there, and then I think we're done. There we go.
Gosh.
combo of great flavours there, isn't it?
There we go.
Oh,
There we are.
Beautiful.
Tamarind bites.
amazing. Brilliant stuff.
Fantastic. Look to this. The amount of flavour in there. It's coming from all over. It's just beautiful.
That base of the yogurt as well. You're right. The thick texture and unctuousness of that yogurt works so well. Wraps up the other flavours into one whole. Just fantastic. That really
With the
good.
cocktail,
Nice pairing,
actually.
that.
Yeah.
Great.
Really good.
Brilliant stuff.
Brilliant.
Cheers.
So we're nearing the end of our party and we want something sweet and thick and creamy and delicious.
We want to end on a high.
Absolutely. And for this, we've gone proper old school. We've gone to an undisputed Christmas classic. And that's, of course, Advocaat.
Oh, I love it.
There's something so iconic about this, I think, that vivid yellow and the red. It's just Christmas in a bottle. You crack open the Christmas.
Absolutely. I'm sure my grandmother had a bottle of that in her cupboard.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, the first thing, I remember seeing my grandma's drinks cabinet, and that was the very first thing that I saw and thought, that looks inviting. Of course, fast forward many years until I was allowed to have it. But I've really fallen back in love with this, I have to say. And I think now is the time to start exploring and experimenting with this.
It's funny because I said earlier, sherry is the typical Christmas drink, but I mean, Advocaat really is, isn't it? That is the taste of Christmas.
Well, so there's a couple of classic sort of Advocaat-based drinks that are brilliant festive ones. Anyway, the Snowball, of course, which is Advocaat and lemonade, or it could be with ginger ale. And this next drink we're doing, which is called Nan's Sherry Trifle, is a homage to my dearly departed grandmother and that moment of inspiration when I first saw that bottle. And it just takes it in a little bit of a different direction. Because, of course, Christmas, we think about trifle as well. All these lovely, sweet custard beans. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All the sort of classic flavours. So we've put these into essentially one cocktail, and hopefully you'll be thinking, this tastes like my grandmother's sherry trifle.
Yep.
So it's really simple to make. We build this in a glass again, and we're going to take 3 parts of our big, thick, rich, creamy Advocaat. Just put one more in there as well.
Me
3 parts.
I've been at the Griswolds. It's fantastic.
Well, I mean, it's perfectly festive, isn't it? I have a thing in our house actually. We crack open a Christmas. This is the moment it all starts. Really, is the moment you start with a bottle of Advocaat.
And how long does one of those bottles last once you open it?
About 6 months, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So you don't have to worry about that.
No, you want to keep it in the fridge. I think anything with sort of either egg or, I mean, with sherry as well. When you've opened these, you want to keep them refreshed in the fridge, and they will last you for a while. So we're going to add here. We're going to add 1 part of sherry. So you can use Oloroso, you can use Amontillado. If you wanted an extra sweet kick, you could use this rich Pedro Jimenez sherry, which is delicious.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand the nuttiness behind sherry, that it can add a real texture and nutty flavour to a drink. And
I think it is a bit of an acquired taste. You have to sort of,
So just pop that into there again. And it just gives it that lovely nutty sort of almost slightly spicy note to it. We're going to add 1/2 part now of some cherry liqueur.
Love this.
This is the cherry amaro.
Bottle, isn't
It's great, isn't it? Yeah.
It's called Stambecco, this from Italy, and it's from Turin, and it's absolutely delicious. It's a cherry-based liqueur with a touch of almond in it as well. It's
really quite punchy.
It's not like Sambuco.
No, not at all. It's just beautiful. It's delicious. It's sweet. It's rich. It's unctuous. Yeah,
perfect for a sherry trifle-based cocktail. We'll just give that a quick stir.
So that's your base.
That's my base. Oh, got one other thing to add. Extra special chocolate bitters. So,
try a bit on the hand again, please.
Yay, hands up.
There you go.
There you go.
There's a bit on there.
So you think it doesn't actually taste as chocolatey as you'd imagine.
No, but it's definitely got some of those sort of
cocoa notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
so
that
just
a
add
lot.
just a tiny little bit of that, just to give it a zhuzh.
You can get those on any good website that will deliver, or liquor store that will deliver and sell to you over the shop front as well.
So we're going to add not too much ice. Going back to the 70s when our parents only used to add 1 cube of ice to a gin and tonic. Here we only want just a tiny bit, otherwise the next magic moment won't work as well. So we're going to top up now with some ginger ale. And what that will do.
Big difference between ginger beer and ginger ale as well. So make sure that if a recipe calls for ginger ale, it's a lighter product, whereas ginger beer
tends to be fiery, doesn't it?
Yeah, more fiery and have that sort of chilly note to it, whereas ginger ale is a bit lighter in style.
And ginger beer tends to be cloudy, doesn't it?
Correct, yes.
So if you get a bit of height on this, what that will do, that just gives it...
Look at that beautiful froth.
It's amazing,
up,
isn't it?
Isn't it? Foamy and delicious, yeah. So
it's almost a mousse.
There you go.
Now, the one thing that I find with a sherry trifle is the sherry note, but there's also a fruity element to it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, a garnish here, is we're going to add a little bit of, these are slightly toasted flaked almonds onto the top, just nicely toasted off. We're going to add some nutmeg, a little grating of nutmeg on the top there.
That's the world's smallest grater.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It just makes my hands look massive. So
you're almost getting kind of eggnoggy flavours in there.
Yes. Yeah, that's the real key. Back with our mini grater, we're going to add a little bit of grated chocolate on top as well.
Wow, this is decadence in a glass. This is.
You'll only need one of these.
Yeah.
There we go. And just to top it off, of course, some cherries in some liqueur, and of course It's probably a spoon, actually. Maybe better, but we'll use a straw there. And that is our festive Nan's Sherry Trifle.
Look at that.
There you go.
What
There
a
you go.
beaut.
Look, wow. Let's have a little try.
Happy
Cheers.
Christmas.
Cheers. Cheers. Merry Christmas. Yes.
Festive,
Oh, wow.
Goodness me.
sherried,
Big.
trifly.
Trifling. It
Trifling,
really does.
too trifly. Or...
Do you know what? That's a trifle delicious, that is.
Good.
That is lovely. I thought it might be a bit sickly, but it's not at all.
It's not at all.
Ginger ale just gives it about a bit of spice as well.
It's really rich, isn't it? But in a really good and delicious, sort of puddingy way, which is nice.
It reminds me a bit of a Zabaione as well, actually.
Yeah.
It's got that kind
Nice,
of...
yeah.
Yeah,
sure,
nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that really is. Do you know, that's something I could have early in the day and late in the day.
There's always time for it, isn't there? Yeah,
This is a drink that can see you through, I think. Yeah.
And actually, this would be great at the end if you had people around for supper. You could have that instead of a
Instead of
pudding,
dessert,
couldn't you?
yes. You could.
With some of those biscotti things that you dip in or something like that. That would be amazing.
Giving me lots of ideas now for Christmas. Yeah,
Coffee on the
brilliant.
side of that. You know?
What are we going to pair this with?
Yeah.
Well, I knew this was going to be quite a rich one, so I thought we want something fruity now. And I was toying with the idea of tinned fruit salad kebabs.
Oh.
Well, but then I thought, no, you're too sophisticated for that. And you know how there's only ever one cherry per tin?
Always the way,
Yeah.
exactly. We're fighting over that one.
So not really in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
So instead, I've got some dried apricots, which I've just soaked in a little bit of cold tea.
Oh, nice.
Which I thought Nan would approve of.
Yeah.
But it's funny, it gives it a really nice flavour. And how long you soak them depends on whether you've got those really hard dried apricots
Right, yes.
or if you've got those ready-to-eat ones. And these were ready-to-eat, so actually I just gave them a couple of hours.
Yep.
But if you've got those really hard ones, I'll probably do it overnight.
Yeah, cool.
And then, having got those, to fill them, I'm just going to fill them with a little bit of ricotta.
Beautiful.
I'm
I
just
love
going to
ricotta.
flavour up a bit. I love ricotta as well. And, you know, if you wanted to keep it British, you could use cottage cheese, put it through the sieve first, and that would be fine. And that would actually be a bit less rich again.
Oh, does it work the same way? You can sieve that
Absolutely.
down.
It's unbelievably versatile ricotta, isn't it? Because you can use it in savoury dishes and in sweet dishes. And I think that's what's so great about it.
Then I'm just going to add that was half a tub of ricotta. And I'm adding about half a teaspoon of vanilla essence. But I'm going to taste it. I might decide I want to add a bit more, you know.
This looks quite a
Good vanilla.
yeah, very
This is
sophisticated.
great. This company, Little Pod, they source vanilla in Uganda, and it's all very ethically done. And it's a lovely story about these beautiful plantations that they have, and you know, great relationship with the workers and everything. And I see here they were the winner of the Queen's Award. I think now that would be the King's Award, wouldn't it? For Enterprise for Sustainable Development,
That's
which
brilliant.
is fantastic,
That's
isn't it?
really
And,
good.
You know, it's a real good news story, and it's also, I mean, smell that, it is fantastic.
That's the thing I've often found about vanilla essence is you tend to have some which are just they're very artificial, aren't they, on the nose? But actually, to get that real vanilla note, I think it's just there, isn't it?
That might sound something to pimp this drink up with, I think. A dash of that would be phenomenal,
lovely,
yeah.
Really nice, isn't it? And I should say, actually, it's extract, not essence. Essence tends to be
extract.
made with wood pulp or something.
Yep.
It's not got any vanilla in it.
Nice.
And so I'm just adding a little bit of honey. This is some beautiful Welsh honey that I was given, but any runny honey will work.
So ricotta, runny honey, vanilla.
Yeah, you could use maple syrup if you wanted to,
extract,
but I wanted to keep it, you know, keep it European.
And our tea-soaked apricots as well.
Yeah.
And some tea-soaked apricots. So
Could
there
you
we
soak
go.
that in a sort of like almost a liqueur as well? Or
Yeah, you could booze it. I kind of felt that there was
boozy
sort of-
enough? Yeah, that's right.
there was quite a lot of booze going on.
Yeah, yeah.
But absolutely, yeah, you could. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of that, just stuff. And you'll be pleased to see I'm not bringing out a piping bag this time, but you know, you 100% could. So just going to stuff that.
cheeky thing there, isn't it?
And it looks a bit like a cream puff, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? That's
Which
amazing.
again, I thought was, you know, in the spirit.
And they kind of smile at you, which is the nice thing. They've got this little cheeky grin on them, which is great.
Grin. And they're so easy and really delicious. And actually, sometimes I just serve these just straight up like that, you know, as easy as that. But we're just going to dress them up a little bit more. And I've just got some pistachios here, which I'm just going to chop just to give a little bit of a nutty edge to them. What you can do is, obviously what we love about pistachios is the flavour, but we also love the green colour, which just looks fantastic. And if you want to, take a bit more trouble and make your chopped pistachios even greener, what you do is you just put them in a bowl like this, and then you just cover them with boiling water and leave them to one side to cool. And what happens is the boiling water goes really murky and disgusting colour, but don't worry about that. You just take them, and like that, the skins will slip off. And just give them a rub.
Always the one thing with pistachios, isn't it? It's like,
you
spend
can't get them
half the time getting the skins off. And
well, to be honest, the skins don't matter really. They don't spoil the taste. But just if you just rub them off, it just means when you chop them, you'll just get the bright green colour, and you won't get any of the brown. But that's all about just if you're being a little bit special for Christmas. So, got your pistachios, skinned or not, and I'm just going to chop them. You could do this in a food processor, actually, if you wanted to. You could but be careful not to over chop them, because you do want a little bit of texture left in.
It's great flavour pistachios to anything, really, don't they?
I love pistachio, but then I hate it when you get that bright green ice cream that says it's pistachio and just tastes of almond essence, like really fake almondy stuff.
You can really tell if someone's used proper, authentic pistachios, can't you? I think
Right. So anyway, we've got our little apricots, and I'm just going to roll it in like that and give it a nice pistachio smile.
A pistachio beard.
There we go.
Love it.
Okay. So those are some there. And then I thought, trifle, you've got to have cake, haven't you?
Absolutely.
And you could use any sponge cake for this, be absolutely fine. But, Christmas, panettone, we've all got one hanging around, haven't we? There's always that, because it's really nice, the first slice, and then you're not quite sure what to do with the rest of it.
Law of diminishing return, isn't it?
Or you can just buy one of these diddy ones like this.
Nice,
And I'm just going to use some of this panettone as a little base for my apricots. Now, you could stamp out shapes with a biscuit cutter, so you could make little stars or little snowflakes or whatever. Nice. But because this is quite little, so I'm just going to change knives, because I think I need a slightly sharper knife for this. There we go. And just cut it. Because this is quite little, I think I'm just going to do little quarter circles, because it's like already done for me, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
And then we don't want any apricot-related disasters. So I'm just going to add a little bit of melted chocolate. Just grab me a spoon, could you, out of the top drawer?
Every time you say I'm going to add a little something or other, it tends to be amazing.
Lovely.
So it sounds,
just a little bit of melted chocolate, just to kind of glue it on. And because, you can't have too much chocolate. And this is quite bitter, dark chocolate, which I think is going to go really well with the sort of rich creaminess of your cocktail.
Fantastic.
And echo that little bit of chocolate that you've grated on top.
Wow.
If you could use panettone in a sort of like a bread and butter pudding way,
you can.
Absolutely
it goes a bit stale, I suppose.
Very, very good.
Yeah, makes a great bread and butter pudding.
Yeah.
There we go. And that goes on that. And you can make those a little bit in advance, because the chocolate will just firm up a bit. So there you go.
Oh my goodness, they look incredible.
It's absolutely brilliant.
Apricot panettone.
Wow.
Can we get away with saying it's one of your fruit and veg for the day? I think
probably. So. You might have to eat a few.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. So how do they go together? Can we try?
Right, yes.
Should we have a little look?
No, none for you.
None for you. You don't get
I get my own drinks here, do I?
you get one of these, but you don't get.
Ooh.
Oh, there we go.
Give that a little stir, actually. That should get the fizz back again. I'm immeasurably jealous now.
That's phenomenal. I mean, really, really good.
All the trifle flavours.
Just my hand's sneaking in very slowly. Go on,
go for it.
Last one of the day.
Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. All in one?
All in one.
You've got a little bit of chocolate on your hand. Careful there.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Well, time for a nap, isn't it?
Fantastic. No, I think it's time to go and sit down and drink more cocktails.
Yeah.
Yes.
What could be better than that?
Wow. Well, guys, I can't tell you how fantastic those cocktails are. They're just brilliant and so easy. Just whip them up.
Thank you, and likewise with the canapés. I think to be able to take something so simple, so delicious, so flavoursome, pair it together with the great cocktails is what makes a great party, along with great company as well, of course.
Of course, of course. I'm trying to decide which was my favourite cocktail. Oh, it's a really tough one. I think I opted in the end for the chai because I just think it's amazing, the depth of flavour that this has got with no booze in at all.
It's actually really all about the tea, I think, that if you can, combine that with all those lovely flavours, it just goes to show that you don't necessarily have to have alcohol at Christmas. Of course, it's, absolutely nice.
And paired brilliantly with the spicy yet delicious, unctuous canapés that you made.
Oh, well.
Fantastic.
Chai and chat, it's a
Chai and
classic
Perfect.
combination.
Perfect.
I thought for me, the apricots and pistachios was a taste sensation. I was struck for words when I tried that. It's really, truly wonderful.
My vote on the canapé of the day goes for the venison to me. I'm a massive venison fan, locally sourced, beautifully presented, especially with that sage and the little crack underneath. And that mix of Marmite and mayonnaise, that is a game changer for me. So I thought that was phenomenal.
Fantastic. Good joke there, game changer.
Game changer.
I like that. That's Christmas,
Deliberate pun.
Christmas cracker worthy,
Quite
I think.
literally a game changer.
Yeah. Very good. Brilliant. Oh, it's been absolutely delicious. And thank you very much for showing off your skills and educating us in the world of canapés.
Well, thank you, Joel and Neil, for coming to join us at this festive Telegraph Christmas special. And I hope that we have shown you some new ways to really make it a special Christmas for all your friends and family who are coming to celebrate, and to make them feel really cherished, because that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? And all that's left to say is good night and happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.